Welcome to the UI discussion. Welcome to the UI discussion party.
Now what the hell are you waiting for? What the hell are you waiting for? What the hell are you waiting for?
I am LT. Are we trying to follow a standard that we'll never achieve?
Exactly. I don't feel like that's really the heart of the problem of where we are. Unchanged. We have a society now where we're so-called free and we have access to all this opportunity.
Well, my name is Chavez Rosenthal. The responsibility is a lot to do with system and setup.
Patrick Irvin, the black female against the black male life. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the UI Experience, our panel discussion in the podcast format. Today we are going to take on the issue of the black family and how we can heal it. On the line today we have myself, Jackson, as the moderator. We have Patrick on the line. We have Unchained and Chavez joining the discussion. We may have some additional people call in later. But gentlemen, how you doing this evening?
Doing fine.
Very well. Good. All right, glad you could join us today. So let's just go ahead and dive right into the black family. I think everyone can agree that we have enough issues. So let's, instead of continuing to wonder what's going to happen to our family structure, there's some ideas to move it forward or heal the black family, as we like to say. So let's just talk about what happened. Let's start there. What has happened to the black family in the last 10 decades? Don't everybody jump in at once.
I believe that a lot of about the black family is that, a lot of the fathers are missing, but it's not necessarily 100% because of irresponsibility. It's a lot to do with how the system is set up.
Well, okay. I think when you start talking about what happened to the black family, you can really go back to, really you could say it started during World War II, but, if you would advance a little bit further into the 60s, if you will, prior to the 60s, even in slavery times on forward, there was always two-parent. The majority of the black families were two-parent households. And then in the 1960s, you just had a slew of things that just started happening all at once to kind of rip the black family apart. Some of them people argue about, some of them they don't. You had the feminist movement create radical change in America, and that, you can say that it actually turned the black female against the black male, or created a divide there, because the types of things that the feminist movement was fighting for was things that black men nor black women had access to. So, then you could go into the creation of the food stamp program and the government aid programs in the 1960s, which kind of made it possible for people to survive without there being two people in the households. It kind of made the role of a man in the family be devalued, if you will. And then you can introduce the drugs into the community, which got a lot of the black men caught up. And then the war on drugs, which, came right after that, which got those that didn't get caught up locked up. So, it's just a bunch of different things, in my opinion, that happened since the 1960s that have kind of destroyed the black family, be they on purpose or not.
I think Go ahead, brother.
I think that wraps it up for this show. He pretty much hit everything on the head, and I mean, I don't know what else needs to be said, because I mean that's essentially what happened. I mean, you know, and then you have that disconnect, because now we have a society now where we're so-called free, and we have access to all this opportunity, and but the knowledge of how to be fathers and men in relationship, all that stuff, but there's a huge disconnect there, because a lot was not passed on because of everything that the brother just explained. You know, there's this disconnect there, and then a lot of us are figuring it out as we go, or some of us are lucky enough to still have that connection maintained from going back to your father and your grandfather and so forth. But for the most part, you know, that connection has been severed, and so we're kind of figuring things out as society itself is kind of changing, reintroducing what it means to be a man, and what it means to be a woman, and what it means to be a father and mother, and a lot of stuff is being reintroduced, and it's kind of being skewed as well. You know, then you have a lot of things that are being accepted today that would have never been accepted, you know, during the time where the black family was, you know, strong.
Like what specifically?
Like homosexuality. You know that, and it's almost like it's being encouraged on these young, on the young people, especially young black men. It's almost like it's being encouraged, like, and you know, if you got a community full of homosexual young black men, I mean, who's going to fear that community? You know what I mean? Who's going to stand up? You know, I mean, I know there's always been a presence, you know, but the way it is now is almost like it's unusual to be heterosexual. I hate to put it like that, but I mean, that's what I see out here in the streets. It just seems like, you know, being a man is like so passe, it seems.
My question is, when the polls came out, African Americans were the primary people that were against homosexuality. I was just saying, like, how is it being encouraged if they're so objective towards it?
Well, polls, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
That doesn't really mean anything, a poll. I mean, because a lot of the polls tell people what to think. You have polls that people are not going to be very honest about their true feelings, and when they're being polled, I mean, you know, you can take polls for what it's worth, but you know, for what I see, you know, these young people, especially young men who are being raised by single mothers, you know, they're so feminized, and the little girls are being raised to be strong. The boys are being raised to be, you know, I don't know. It's if you're looking at it, it is what you see. I don't know how to really explain it, but it's what I see, and and I'm not the only person that, you know, that sees this.
I agree with the part about the feminization of the boys, and I don't think it's anything that any single mother does on purpose. I think it's just, you know, I was raised by a single mother, and in turn, I've had to spend a nice chunk of time as a single father to 3 boys. So for me, anyways, there was it's like the old saying goes, you know, women raise their daughters and love their sons. Men raise their sons and love their daughters. You have a woman who loves her boy and wants to protect her boy, and because of that, she maybe shelters him, or she doesn't expose him to things that he needs to be exposed to. She doesn't talk to him the way he needs to be talked to, and that might be a good thing, because being talked to by a woman in the way that you would be talked to by your dad might be a little confusing in and of itself when you grow up to be a man. And you start looking for those types of qualities in a woman. You know, now you're looking for a woman that's going to talk to you like a man. So, you know, there are different, I think there are a lot of different things that go into it, but I do think that our black boys are being feminized by the lack of a male role model. I won't even say a father figure in the house. I'll just say a male role model in the community, period. Because you don't have to be the father of that child to take that child under your wings and show him what a man is. So I just say there's a lack of there's just a lack of fatherly images or a lack of manly images on the local community level as a whole in our neighborhood.
Okay, I won't disagree. I wouldn't disagree with that. That was actually pretty, you know, pretty in the game. But I guess I don't really want to allow the conversation to just drift into, you know, this homosexuality or the feminization of young boys is like the main issue. You know, that is the greater culture here. You know, the movement or whatnot, and I'm sure that that's having an influence. But, you know, that's really, I don't feel like that's really the heart of the problem for where we are. It aids. It doesn't. I don't think it helps. But, you know, I don't know. Let's move on. Let's kind of turn the page on that and kind of get more into, okay, the male isn't into the household. They're and we want to say what's up to LT. She's on the line. I want to get her involved here as well.
How you doing, LT?
Y'all doing?
Good.
I'm so happy to hear men discussing this. This is it right here. This is what gives us hope.
Okay. Right. All right. So 73% of black children are born to an unwed mother. You know, like that figure. When I saw that figure, and I have to do the research on exactly where I saw that figure, just to be honest with you, so, you know, take that for a grain of salt. But that's staggering to me. You know, that's a staggering figure to me. I'm wondering, as a community, is that something that we're just comfortable with? Like, is that really just going to be our new norm?
What is the standard? What is the standard, though? As I started, remember, we're always talking about this learning knowledge of self and our history. And as I started to look back at, like, African culture, in certain communities, a man wouldn't take a woman unless she could bear children for him. You have instances of where it's a matriarchal society where a man may go ahead and birth children with the women, and then the women raise the children. So whose standard of what a family looks like are we trying to follow at this point? And are we trying to follow a standard that we'll never achieve, which always will make us look dysfunctional? These are things that I think that we have to start to come to. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of course we're going to look dysfunctional to the dominant society because we don't follow their, you know, we can't subscribe to the way that they do life because we come from a completely different family standard. We have to start looking at that.
So, LT, you don't think that a man and a woman and children are the right standard?
I do. Yes, I recognize man, woman, child, you know, as some circles, it's something about that connection. But at the same time, if we have been passed down one way of doing things from the time that we arrived here, and then the dominant culture tries to make us subscribe to that, maybe that's not the way that we do family. And we'll never get it right, quote, right.
Well,
I think the point that LT was making is like, as she study upon various African cultures, you see a variety of different family structure. But what I would say is, you know, getting back to the original is kind of well for me has been my my goal. So yeah, as you go back, you may see all kinds of family structures, but even as you go back, you may find that even those were changed because of some sort of outside force that required a survival or more of a survival unit, because that's what we have in families today. We just have a bunch of survival units and not necessarily families. So if you have a family where there's not a man there and you just have a child and a woman, then that's a unit that's going to be spending the most of its existence just trying to survive. And that's what I see. But no, I get the point that LT is making. I don't think she's saying that it's not necessary.
And you guys said it when I listened in. You guys were saying exactly what has to get back to is community. Now that is the basis of our family, is community that we don't have. So I definitely hear what you guys were saying for sure. It all has to be taken into account.
Well, I think though too. I mean, because if you go back, even in American society, I know, and I'm just going back to American culture. I know in Africa there were a lot of different family structures prevalent in Africa. Africa is a pretty big continent with a lot of different cultures. But there was a period of time in the 1850s all the way up to about 1900 where that number was reversed. Per the census document that I could look up, that number was reversed where 70% of black children were born to two-parent households that were wedded. And there was a point in time, I want to say in the 1930s and 40s, where the black family actually had higher marriage rates than the white family. So there was a brief period of time where the black family unit was, and even if we're judging them by the white stereotype, the European standard, we were doing better than they were. And then, it just kind of flipped.
Was that also for survival, do you think? In the sense of we can't make it alone unless let's link up. Because you're talking, you said 1850, so slavery within that next 15 years, I mean, you had to have support. You had to have that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I agree with that. I do think, I think all manner of, I think when it comes to families in general, the society or the culture will switch to whatever is most prevalent to survive at the time. I think even if you go into where we are now with there being a predominant amount of single mothers, that was something that was necessary because the black men went missing. So, if there are no black men, are we just going to stop having kids? Well, that's not going to happen. So instead, the women that are available and that are having kids are just going to have to be mommy and daddy. So I agree.
A woman can necessarily be that.
You don't think a woman can what?
I don't think a woman can necessarily be a dad, though. Like, there's certain characteristics of that. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that even if a woman stepped up to the plate like they have been doing, it doesn't necessarily mean that things will get better. I think a man in the household is a standard. And I'm not doing it just by European values or whatever, or however you put it. I think that it's, whenever you look at any family unit, whether it's in nature, whether it's in overseas, it doesn't really matter. You will see a male dominant figure, a female dominant figure, and then the child.
I agree with that.
I'd like to ask a question. Would we agree that the black family structure has been and is continually under attack? And then if we agree there, wouldn't we have to start there with the whys and the solutions? Because it's almost like we're talking about symptoms as opposed to what's really going on.
I guess this is the case. Everybody's familiar with Willie Lynch, correct? The Willie Lynch letter. I think we all pretty much have an understanding, and it has probably never been more prevalent than it is today. And I believe that if every Black man and woman in this country would read that and come to an understanding of what was deliberately instilled and I almost want to say it's infected the Black community. If everyone could understand what is going on and why, that's when we all can stop and look and see, oh my God, like they wanted this. This is not just by, this is by design. And so then we can begin to start to awaken in people how to get back. But right now, people are asleep to it. They don't even know why they do what they do.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I think another part of why it happens is because of statistics. I mean, it's fed to the white community the wrong way. I mean, when you look at when you look at the amount of women that are single mothers, I mean, they just tell you like how that amount. They don't tell you the reasons why behind it. It reminds me of the enforcement. When you look at it, you will see 65% of African Americans are incarcerated due to drug users, and you'll hear other people thinking that all Blacks must be dopeheads and fiends. You know what I mean? But then, but what people don't see is that 13% of white people and 13% of Black people mess around with the same amount of drugs. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they don't really see that it's being enforced differently.
You're right, because they're not accounting for cohabitation.
To the Black community. Yeah. So when it comes to the Black community, they're just saying, "Oh, we just got a lot of bad fathers and bad people," when they don't really see the reasons behind as to why it happens.
I think that's pointing to the question that Unchained asked. Instead of discussing the symptoms, like really getting to the root problem that really face us. We mentioned, things changed around the 1960s. We talked about even according to Western standards of marriage from, 1850, early 1900s, we still had the ability to master this sort of family structure. And, again, until the 1960s. But I think like a key element in all of that was the realization that we had to band together, kind of what LT is talking about. My father always say that, the microwave and the color television really destroyed us because you can't tell nobody. Now, my father was born in the 20s, right? He's an older gentleman. So he was born in the 20s, but it's kind of funny, but it's really serious though, because when the microwave and the color TV came out, you couldn't tell nobody that they were, enslaved. They wasn't living a good life. Finally, I got the life of the time. It's just a wild conversation with our elders. We really should have these conversations, but like at that point, and even till today, because everybody got iPads and 4 flat screen televisions throughout their house, you can't tell them that they're in a dire situation. So until we get that realization back, like I just don't really understand how the community comes back together. You got to see LT talked about the family. Maybe the community is the family. Like, yes, it is. Like, we got to band back together and help each other out. I just think that is just something that's so critical to our future. But I'm just unsure how you say that. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to borrow that quote. I'm gonna put it in quotes from now on. But that is so deep. The microwave and color TV, because here's the thing. Let's go back to when a family unit had to grow its own food. Okay, you knew that you were only gonna eat if you worked with the family on the farm. Correct? So now the government is in the place. I saw that you put down food stamps and that dependency on the government. Well, that was created. So now you can't even depend on your own family to eat. You can't go to a garden. These people don't know how to plant a garden. You know, it's let's go to the store and get our groceries, or let's go, you know, down to Corporate Row and get some fast food to eat. So to me, the beginning of turning this around and in community will be learning how to be self-sustaining. And then we can begin to understand that we no longer have to depend on the man or the system to take care of us. When we can break that, then we can look at each other again and say, oh, I need you. I can't eat. I can't make it without you.
That last part, what you just said, is so important. I need you. Because I think today, men and women really get the knock for always talking about how they don't need a man. But I think both really feel like they don't need the other. And and there's no, and then when it comes down to it, you know, the morals have changed, your relationships have changed. There's no more courting. There's no more use. Most people, if you hook up with a woman, you know, she already has several children. Woman hook up with a guy, he's already have several baby mamas, and there's that wouldn't happen if the morals were of a higher standard, and that wouldn't happen if courting was still, you know, a proper thing, and just, you know, like you said, when we had to rely on each other, we needed each other. We played out certain roles, and we did what we had. You know, we did those roles, and it complemented. You know, it was a complementary relationship. Like right now, it's just really just supplementary. If I need something for that night, I have to go find somebody to hook up with them, and it's done. There's no need for a relationship, and you kind of just see it out there. See it. You know, there's no need for a man because the state is now most of these women's men. It's the state. You know, he provides the Section 8 and food stamps and the programs to help get her to be very independent. You know, child care, all that. It's like really no need for men, and vice versa. It's like, you know,
Obama got me.
Well, you know what? Right. Dr. Claude Anderson said something similar to that. I'm gonna repeat something he said, where he said, you know, Uncle Sam took the black man, put him in jail, and then went to the black woman and said, "Don't worry, baby, I got you." So, you know, you know, the new man in the relationship is Uncle Sam, and he's in the community. So, I mean, but and all of that is all still for me, it's all still a psychological thing. Even if you took away the government aid and said, "Look here, black men and black women, if y'all want to eat, y'all gonna have to get on this farm and work together." I'm not so sure with the mentality that we have, we might starve. Because we'd be at each other's neck. We'd be at each other's neck the entire time. So until that respect is built back up, I mean, and we're so materialistic at this point too. You know, people will forego cooking and eating food, and they'll eat ramen noodles for 2 weeks to go buy a pair of Jordans. So all of that, I think, kind of goes back into the family unit. Even if you were to say the community is our family unit, you know, well, we don't have a community, not a real one. And that kind of matches with what we have going on in the family unit. We don't really have families either. So the question for me becomes, how do we repair that broken mentality that we have? I mean, because once you fix that, once you get a man to respect the woman and the woman to respect the man, in my opinion, everything else just kind of flows. But without that element of respect,
it sounds a lot like economics. It sounds like, you know, because there's no community if no one owns the land in that community. I mean, you got a neighborhood full of renters, and you know, how you gonna have a community if you don't even own the land that's you know?
I don't think. I was gonna say I don't think it's necessarily economics because when you look in the past, our slaves, we didn't have anything, but there was still community together. And like I was thinking of what you guys were saying, reminded me a lot of when two African American slaves used to be together, and the slave master would come and rape the female woman. It kind of reminded me of what would happen if that female would have got pregnant. Like the male wouldn't have. I know from what I've read and everything, the male wouldn't have left. They would have still been together. Whereas today, you would see that baby not mine, and he would leave. And when you look back then, he knew it wasn't his. The baby came out half white, half black, and they're still together. He still loved the woman. He still loved the child. Everybody was a family. All the slaves on the same farm was a family.
Right.
You know, there wasn't necessarily any division between them.
You are exactly right. But I just think we can't diminish the need for community economics and the importance and how it affects our everything. You know, I don't know. I don't feel like we can gloss over that. That's like a key element. Go ahead, LT.
My approach has been, if anybody's kind of picked up on it, my approach has been return our image to us. Okay, the industry, you want to talk about the media, the music industry, deliberately took Beyonce, created this sorcery of single ladies, independent woman, I don't need a man, I got my own thing, my money, you know, how I look, and decimated the black woman's image. Huge. Now you got that show that I always talk about, the show Deception and Scandal. Now you got black women. They are completely showing us in our face, I got your black woman. You got a woman up here trying to be a side piece of a white president? Really? So it's clear what they want. It's clear that they've taken the image of the black woman and then remove the black man out of the picture. So to me, knowing how powerful images are, and it is a form of sorcery, if you will, Hollywood in itself. So what we need to do is take the images, the positive images of what we were, and go ahead and use it for good and get people back to the understanding of who they are and see how powerful we've been, how powerful we will continue to be. So it's going to start with the image of what we want them to be.
Because that scandal is in my household is banned. You know, no one watches Scandal in my household.
Amen.
That's just an in your face. It is so bogus. It is so bogus how it's portrayed. But just to go back on what you were saying, it's like, you know, we don't own anything to really promote any of these images that
Right.
So, like, and I know. To me, it's economics, man. To me, it all goes back down to economics. We don't own the businesses that provide jobs for these men to be fathers and to their families, and we don't own the land to be able to make something from that land, to produce something of wealth. You know, media, it kind of helps you to kind of address that, because, you know, what we're doing now with UI, you know, is we get to put out there what we want to put out there, and everyone's kind of, you know, have access to it.
Right.
But then what happens when they take that away? But also, when I asked earlier, will we agree that the black family structure is under attack? If you answer that question, then you'll say, well, what's the reason? And it's for survival. It is for survival of, to me, of the European. It's for their survival, because at the end of the day, a strong black family, strong black community has always been viewed as a threat to them. And so, if we understand that it goes down to the very basics of genetic survival, we'll be a bit more hip to what's going on. And Dr. Frances Wilson, all of her work has been pointing to, this is what's going on. This is what they're doing. In the 70s, she said that a white colleague of hers said that white supremacy goal is to put black men into dresses. And she said, well, now you got the pants. Now you got the pants coming all the way down. The pants are starting to sag, and now they're coming out the pants, putting on dresses. And so, if they were saying that in the '70s, and you starting to see what they were saying then, comes light. Why? How can we continue to ignore that and say, well, that's just extreme, or that's just ridiculous, or I mean, as ridiculous as it sounds, that's what I am seeing. You know, so if we're under attack, then why? And if we understand that it's for their survival, you know, then we could kind of be hip to what's going on and do what's necessary to fight that off.
Hold on, Chavez. Before you jump in, you know, we keep trying to keep a tight ship. So we had 37 minutes into the discussion. So I think we got to go into our closing comments and thoughts and kind of start wrapping up. So whoever, you know, speaks up now, let's just hear your final thoughts on the discussion today in general, wherever you want to take the conversation.
That's the action.
Action, right. There we go.
Chavez.
Okay. I think the main important thing is to bring back the black community first before we think about economics. Because if you look in another community, like my dad used to joke around about the Mexican community. He used to say that there'll be 50 Mexicans, you know, one house, working together, and then by the time they give them 10 years, they'll have the whole neighborhood. They own the whole neighborhood. And the thing about that is, before you can have all the understanding of economics, but until you actually have love for your fellow black man, you know what I mean, that wouldn't really matter. That's my main point. To just really getting back to loving each other and appreciating who you are.
Patrick, you've been on the quiet end. Let's get you in here.
I think responsibility is something that's sorely missing in all of these arguments from the community. It becomes so easy for us to point the finger at outside sources and entities for why we're failing to do what we need to be doing. When it comes to men in the community, we can say the war on drugs has us locked up. The ones that aren't locked up are strung out, and the ones that aren't strung out are unemployed. And that might all be true. But at some point, as a man and as a community and as people, we have to take responsibility and own up to that and stop sitting back and having a pity party for ourselves and start to take proper action. I do believe economics comes into play because a black man and a white man going for the same job and they both equally qualified. If the boss is white, the black man might as well stay home. And that being said, you know, there are a lot of things about our family unit that are continuing the existence of the strain that we're seeing, such as, you know, women being able to find work and better paying jobs more readily than men are, being able to succeed in an education system that's designed for women more so than it is for men. So for me, I think it all starts, one, with building a respect for each other, and then taking responsibility for where we are and for what we can do to make it better.
Okay.
I'm a strong believer in in economics, and I think that it is the basis of which we get everything in our house in order. The word economics literally comes from a Greek word that means the rules of the house. That's what it means. Wow. That's what it comes from. And the nation is a house, the community is a house, and how we manage the resources of that house is going to determine our survival. Someone mentioned the example of Mexicans being 50 in a house and working together, getting things done, but that's an economy there. And and if we understand that, because I think we have I think we have an idea of what we believe economics is, as opposed, and we just come down to money and jobs and things like that. But no. It's really literally managing the resources, or how to get the resources you need to survive. And if you have an entity that's replacing a whole half of a relationship, it's going to be hard to address that. Man, woman, child. That's how it works. That's how it starts off. Everyone doing their part to make their home function, to make their community function, to make their nation function. And as much as I agree with the idea of taking responsibility of your own and not letting the man as an excuse and the whole victimization and the victim card. I get that, but if we don't understand that those that run the economy, what their aims are, then there's no way that we could take the proper steps to take the responsibility needed to make our houses more functional. So to me, it comes down to economics, man, and I mean in the true sense of the word, meaning the rules of the house.
Indeed.
And I feel like I'm drawing on, you guys are giving me so much to add to my arsenal of how I feel this can be healed. Number one, for me, it's the psychology of the image. The image needs to be recaptured. The images of Black men being strong in their families, running the rules of the house, and the woman who is supportive of him taking those actions, but also doing her part. I believe the woman is the house of the wisdom, the intuition that supports the man who does the work. And if we can get those images out back to our community through UI or wherever we, whatever medium we use, then people can start to internalize those images, because they've internalized the wrong image. They've internalized the European image of how to be. We want them to internalize. My thing also is it's okay to go home. As you guys stated, with, a Mexican family, a Filipino family, 20 people deep, and then they go open a business. It's okay for us to go home. We need to lose that individual European standard of mine, my property, my money, my stuff. It's ours. Let's come together. This is where we've come from. That's the image of who we are, and we need to get back to that, and we will begin to live that out, and you'll begin to see it turn around.
Well said. Well said. Okay, that's going to wrap up our discussion, the UI experience building the Black family. Great talk, everyone. I think one of my major takes from it is, there's no black or white issue, the either or issue. And all of this is really, going to take a lot of work on a lot of different levels. So hopefully, we reach some people today and really spread some of your thoughts and ideas. But I appreciate you being on the discussion. So that was LT, Unchained, Patrick, and Chavez. Thanks again, guys. So I look forward to the next discussion.